In the tiny town I grew up in the 70s, there were two constants. Every day smoke would belch from the massive zinc smelting plant on the hill, and the Columbia River would silently, relentlessly carve its way through our community. At its widest, it was 1,000 feet and clipped along at a speedy 13 feet per second during the spring runoff. Looking down and watching it flow from the bridge was an experience. It didn't meander. Instead, like a living thing, it moved with power, with purpose. In the summer months, temperatures could reach 100 degrees in Trail. In 1975, there was only 3 ways to beat the heat. The premium experience was if your family or friends had a cabin at the numerous lakes throughout the West Kootenays. The second way was if you had a couple of bucks for admission to the public pool. If you weren't lucky enough for option 1 and too poor for option 2, you were left with option 3, the river. I always got option 3. On that day in July, we rode our bikes through town to Gyro Park. This massive field had both a beach and walkway, but that's not what we were after. The spring melt had engorged the river, creating high, fast water that coursed through the onions. The onions were a set of giant, water-worn rocks jutting from the river sand at an angle, like the spine of something ancient and submerged. High water would rush between the rocks, creating a fast, controlled channel that led to the shore. The channel between the onions looked swimmable. It always looked swimmable. That was the thing about the river. It never looked like what it was. Watching the river from the shore was vastly different than being on the onions. You didn't just see it. You felt it, smelt it, heard it. Everything around you moved. A low roar filled your ears. I dove in. The cold shocked me. It was 9 degrees outside, but the water was black and freezing. At first, it all went according to plan. The current grabbed me and carried me down the chutes. Icy water sprayed in my face. Suddenly, I was pulled under. The roar of the river muffled. I instinctively kicked to surface. I still descended. I watched the bubbles rise and the sun-filled blue sky shrink as the dark river tried to hold me. Time slowed. I realized I was being pulled down further by a current. Panicked, I flailed and kicked harder. My chest burned. I sank further. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't break free from the current. The burn in my chest became a pain that radiated to my shoulders. It was then I heard the voice. I didn't just hear it, I felt it. It was a calm, nurturing voice in my head.
Let go. Breathe one last time. Your struggle will be over.
I would be lying if I said I didn't consider it. But images of my mom, my 7 sisters and brothers, and weirdly that my family could never afford my funeral, raced through my mind. No, I screamed back.
Then, fight.
The current twisted me sideways and pulled me down harder. Summoning every ounce of energy in my body, I scratched at the surface, kicked and bucked with all my might. Suddenly, I popped out of the depths, gasping, close to the shore. Weak and panting, I crawled onto the warm rock, laid there and sucked the heat from it until I caught my breath. In a few minutes, I composed myself and realized no one had seen or understood what had just happened to me. The sun still shone, the birds still flew, and the river still flowed. But I had changed. I had learned a lesson that stayed with me for the rest of my life. I never mentioned the voice to my friends or family, but I also never shot the onions again. A couple of years later, another kid from my street, who was a few grades ahead, drowned in the Columbia River near Gyro Park. I often wondered if he heard the voice, too.